I've already covered the Epic Secondary mod on Prinz Ruprecht, but those of you who have watched me regularly may know or may suspect that the Epic Secondary mod isn't the only one I have in my arsenal. And that's true. In fact, I also have the Epic Gun Range mod, and I've put it on the legendary tier Soviet destroyer Khaba. This has led to something great, I think, because my method for playing the Khabarovsk probably differed from a lot of people out there. I know a lot of people like to use Trubetskoy as the commander because in his third row of skills, he's got a skill that's shaped like a Zippo lighter. I could never remember the name of it, but what it does is it increases the main battery gun range, I think, by 8% when fully maxed, but it also increases the fire chance up to an absurd, I think, 16% chance when fully maxed. The downside to that is it decreases the maximum damage done by the high explosive shells, but with such a huge fire chance on guns that reload and fire so quickly, you can pretty much guarantee a fire on every target you take aim at. Of course, if you do take that skill, the downside is you cannot get the range as far as you can with Anton Gurin, because in his fourth row of skills, he's got one called Sidestep, which increases incoming enemy fire dispersion by a certain percentage, but also increases main battery gun range by 10% when fully maxed. And that was what I was historically using on the Khabarovsk all the time, because I wanted more range instead of more, say, fire chance. I thought that was more useful, and I still stand by that. The ultimate problem with Trubetskoy, in my book, was that the range couldn't be extended as far as I wanted it to be. That's all changed now with the Epic module. I am running Trubetskoy in this game with that fire chance skill, so my fire chance is outrageous, but my main battery gun range is not as far as it could be. Once I land 50 shell hits on a target, that range will increase by 2%. I land 50 more, another 2%, and so on, for up to 5 times. So you can buff the range on the guns with the Epic Gun mod by 10% when fully maxed, and I think we may get it fully maxed in this game here. Of course, this game is not going to work out as the most victorious triumph you've ever seen. In fact, it's going to kind of go the opposite way. But we have just inflicted the first casualty to the Reds in this game so far, and that is the enemy Khabarovsk. Our team has lost 2 ships. We've lost a battleship and a destroyer because, of course, we have. I would love to go into the Bravo cap and flip it, but there's a battleship outside of that cap. You can see there toward the north. And my concealment on this build is actually really, really bad. There, by the way, we get the main battery range extended by an additional 2% after landing 50 shell hits, but my concealment's really bad. You can see it up next to the minimap. It's 7.6 kilometers by sea. That's because this build does not spec into concealment at all. I have double steering gear mods on this thing because the rudder shift is absolutely atrocious if you don't. It's honestly kind of unplayable to me if you use the concealment mod. And then with Trubetskoy, I have 0 skills that are being spec'd into concealment, so 7.6 is what I get. Whereas with Gurin, I do use one of his skills that specs into the concealment a little bit, and that gets the detectability down to, I think, 6.9 kilometers by sea. 7.6 is actually a hugely significant difference, so it sort of hamstrings me a little bit more than even Gurin does in terms of pushing capture circles, especially if I know there's enemy ships around, because frankly I'm just too visible. And the Khabarovsk excels at long ranges like this. We're 11 kilometers away, farming this GK, lighting multiple fires on him. Khabarovsk doesn't necessarily excel at close range. It's a gigantic target, it is very fast, but I wouldn't necessarily call it the most agile or maneuverable destroyer known to man. It's certainly no American or British DD. So, if you're at close range, massive target, very easy to shoot. Long range, that becomes a lot harder. And thus, I like to spec on the range of the guns. The range increases dynamically throughout the game with this new module, and, basically our goal is just to annoy the ever-loving crap out of any battleship or cruiser we cross paths with, and then, just like multiple fires on them. So that's what we're doing. We've got a Conqueror, and I think that was a GK pushed into the Alpha Cap. There's another cruiser over there, and basically things are sort of falling apart. My team has lost both of their destroyers besides me, so that sort of puts the onus on me to cap, which I'm not really doing right now. The enemy team holds Alpha and Charlie. Bravo is still open. There's absolutely no way we can get to Alpha and take that, so right now we're just running away. We get the Witherer medal on either the Conqueror or the GK. It's quite impossible to tell which one, but one thing I can tell you is that this Trubetskoy build is very, very good. If you really like the Witherer medal and you want to farm a lot of them to impress your friends or something, you can farm Witherer medals left and right with this Trubetskoy build. But what do we do now? Because, well, our team is basically just toast at this point. We've got 4 ships left alive and 6 ships left on the enemy team. They hold 2 out of 3 of the caps, and I don't think we have a chance at even taking the Bravo cap. Notice an enemy battleship is pushing into it from the side, so we also can't push into that. Thankfully, the Conqueror goes down, and, I guess the enemy team had 7 ships. Now they have 6 ships. Minotaur is pushing in, broadside to this battleship. Hopefully that will spell his demise, but we're going to open fire on him and start shooting at him. Basically, I don't know. In this kind of situation, what do we even do? When we're this far down on ships, there's still almost 8 minutes left to go in this game, so it's not like time was of the essence. There were no reason for my 2 destroyer teammates to go down, but they did. I suspect because perhaps they were playing a bit too aggressively in trying to get the capture circles. Little piece of advice that I will repeat ad nauseum, and I won't stop repeating. The least useful thing you could possibly do in your destroyer is die 5 minutes into the game inside of a capture circle, whether you take that cap or not. If you're dying 5 minutes into the game in your destroyer, you're doing it wrong. You need to survive the entire game. That needs to be one of your goals. In addition to spotting and playing the objectives, staying alive is the most useful thing you can possibly do. A destroyer gets exponentially more valuable the more time a game goes on. And if both of your destroyers die inside of the first 5 minutes of the game, and you're a Khaba, well, there's not much you can do except farm other ships, especially with this build. With the Gurin build, I think it's a little bit more competitive in terms of having an impact on the battle, just because the concealment is better. With the Trubetskoy build, not so much, because our concealment is absolute trash. At this point, there's only 3 of us left. 2 battleships, me, versus 1 destroyer, cruiser, and 3 battleships. We got one of my battleship teammates that has clearly gone around the Charlie cap for reasons unknown to me. He's now pushing into Charlie, so we're going to let him have at it, and we're just going to sort of sail back toward these battleships. By a stroke of luck, we run into the ZF6 and we actually spot him, or rather the Z46. Maybe he was trying to get spotted by us, maybe he thought he could pick a fight with the Khaba, but let me tell you one thing, even with Trubetskoy at the helm, and even with my maximum HE damage nerfed by a certain percentage in order to give me a better fire chance, I can still rip basically any destroyer apart with these guns, and it's not even close. Khaba is still the king of the gunboats at legendary tier with this build or with any build. And now it's an annoying menace that has the ability to shoot you from 15.8 kilometers away with Trubetskoy's crazy skill that gives it a 16% fire chance. By the way, take note, we have lit 18 fires in this game thanks to that Trubetskoy skill. Khaba working perfectly as intended. It is the ultimate annoyer of the battleship. That's what this destroyer is, and that is frankly the reason that I love it so much. Of course, it's not always the best, at carrying games, especially in this kind of configuration where we've sort of designed it to maximize its farming potential. But Khabarovsk is one of my most played ships. I think it's my second or third most played, and I do have a 63% win rate in it, so it can be that bad at carrying games, and we probably could have carried this one if only maybe we had a little bit of help from our destroyer teammates and they didn't go down in the first 5 minutes. Don't want to blame the teammates, though. Of course, there's probably extra things I could have done in this game to change the outcome. And in fact, in my mind, this is still a possibility that we could win. There are 4 minutes left on the clock. There are only 3 ships left now. I've taken the enemy destroyer out. My teammates are going to capture Charlie, and I've sort of got this Prinz Ruprecht all to myself. I'm just a little bit above half health. I'm 11 kilometers away from the guy. He's pointing bow in toward my 2 remaining battleships, so, even though he is bow in, he doesn't have the best armor scheme known to man. And under the focus fire of those 2 battleships plus me, we may even be able to take him out. There we net ourselves the Confederate medal and the high caliber medal to go with our Witherer. And that Prinz Ruprecht is just melting under our hail of fire. We've switched to the AP now, which is quite good. It's not quite as effective as, say, the French AP, but certainly against broadside targets at most distances, it can get a fair amount of damage. Of course, Prinz Ruprecht does have very heavy armor on its deck and sides, so I think the AP is not quite being as effective as it could be. We have since switched back to the HE for the extra fire chance, but Prinz Ruprecht is well on his way back to port. I don't know what's going on, but my 2 battleship teammates are actually running away from him, it looks like. Sort of wish they'd stick back to take him out. Maybe they don't have to. They just are paying him absolutely no respect. Somebody just blapped him right through his face, and, well, now he's going to go down. But unfortunately, I think so is our friendly battleship over there, 19 kilometers away. He's got about as much HP as this Ruprecht, and 1 stray shell is going to take him out. And unfortunately, our other guy is giving broadside to the Ruprecht, which, even though the Ruprecht is almost dead, he still has working main battery guns that can deal a lot of damage to the broadside of a GK, and there you go. That GK has no health left. 2 ships versus 2. Still could win this, but one of those ships is, I think, the enemy Minotaur, who is, to his great credit, managed to survive all the way in till the end of the battle. The Minotaur is a great ship, obviously, extremely powerful, very good at putting out the damage, but I think that's me there just checking how much the main battery gun range is now that we've maxed out the secondary or the main battery range skill. There's the Minotaur, by the way, broadside to us. This is about as good of a shot as we can possibly hope for, and hopefully we'll be able to get citadels. Unfortunately, not quite. I don't know if Minotaur is AFK or if he's actually playing this game. We're trying to aim for his citadel, but it seems like these guns may... Okay, finally, there we get one. Skeptical that these guns actually have the pen to hit the citadel consistently at this range, but maybe we just weren't aiming at the right place. And it does look like, for whatever reason, the Minotaur has decided he's no longer playing this game. He's simply AFK. So he is going to be a free kill for us, which is nice. That's going to put our damage done total up to almost 200,000, and we have still got 1 battleship left to contend with. There's exactly 1 minute left to go in this game. Well, maybe a couple seconds more, but that is enough time to YOLO into the last remaining battleship, and we have enough HP that if we do get the chance to YOLO him, then we might be able to take him out with torpedoes without first dying ourselves. We're the last ship left alive, so we really have nothing to lose, and we know the battleship is in Charlie. The unfortunate part is there's not enough time left to go in this game, and if we are going to torpedo him in the next 30 seconds, then he's going to have to be pushing into us. If he is a player with tactical awareness, then he's absolutely not going to be doing that. And frankly, I don't even really know why he's in Charlie. He doesn't even need to be. And as I suspected, he's absolutely not pushing into us. In fact, he is increasing the distance, and we simply have no time to traverse the distance and torpedo him. So we are going to lose this game, but we may as well farm out the rest of our damage numbers, and yeah, Then we get up to 200,000 damage done. And there, I present to you a look at the Khabarovsk with the Epic Gun mod. I highly, highly suggest, if you get the gun range mod, you put it on the Khabarovsk. I can't think of a better destroyer to put it on, except maybe the Delny. Actually, that's an interesting idea, because the Delny it doesn't even get access to the main battery mod. Can you put it on the Delny? I don't know. I've just raised a question for myself, so I'm going to have to check, but 2,300 base XP on a loss, I'd say not bad. You could say maybe I could have done more to win that game for my team, but frankly, I need the help of the other destroyers. I'm just one player. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video and a look at the Epic mod. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.